Hey everybody, it's Dami and Jamie. I can't even talk tonight. It's Dami and Jamie, and we're back with Hometown History, and we're at the Goodridge Freedom Center, and we have a very special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Good day, or should I say good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is William Goodridge, station master on the Underground Railroad and entrepreneur.
Ooh, we are in
right here in York.
greatness.
And I'm happy to be spirited back, particularly back into my home. I once lived here.
Right.
This is a special occasion for me.
We're happy to have you.
Well, thank you.
Do you mind if we ask you a few questions tonight?
Be my guest.
Sure. So we know through history that you were once a slave and then you were an indentured servant. Can you tell us about those things and how they impacted your life?
Well, we used a new terminology.
Okay.
I was once enslaved.
Enslaved. Okay.
Enslaved is the action.
Okay.
And that's what I was. I was not the noun. But yes, I was born enslaved in Maryland on the Carroll Plantation. Well, my mother was born on the Carroll Plantation. At the age of 6, I was sent to Baltimore, and I lived with a doctor for a while. And I made my way indentured to York, crossing that Mason and Dixon line to free land. Because as people know, during my time, Maryland was a slave state. Pennsylvania was a free state. So I lived with the Reverend and Mrs. Dunn. They taught me how to read. They taught me how to write, although I probably knew my ABCs and 1, 2, 3s when I got here. But that was a very difficult time. Learning, tanning, and being someone's property.
Right.
Is, how would you say it today? It would be something unfavorable.
To put it lightly.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious about that switch from being enslaved to then being an indentured servant. Why would Dunn purchase you? Was it that it was cheaper? Because then he had to set you free when you were 21? Because, I mean, the idea was he was going to have you for 15 years.
Unfortunately, I don't remember why he did what he did. I'm happy that he did. But I would say it was more for help.
Really? Okay.
It was more for help. He needed help in the in his tanning business. And it was only when the tanning business went under that I was set free.
Oh, really?
I was about 16 years of age.
Wow.
And that's how you were released 5 years early.
Yes. And I have to say they were quite nice to me. They gave me a Bible and a set of clean clothes because that was the rule then after the Gradual Abolition Act. So I went off and learned a new trade. And that trade was barbering. I turned a one-chair barbershop into the tallest and most important emporium right here in Little York. Oh, you don't call it Little York anymore. It's just called York. Right there on the square.
Out of all the things you sold, which one was your favorite?
Would have to be the oil of Celsus.
The oil of sauces.
Celsus.
Celsus, okay.
And balm of Minerva. Now that oil that I put together made your hair grow.
Wow.
So if you were bald, if you would put it on your head, it would make your hair grow. Do you have such thing nowadays?
We do. We have. Women spend a lot of money on their hair products.
That was one, and of course the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
I sewed the Christmas tree, and I was the first to bring a Christmas tree to York. Imagine that.
Really?
And
First.
decorate it. Let me
Okay.
preface that by decorating it.
Wow.
My children and I, we would decorate the Christmas tree and charge a small fee for people to come and look at it. When I say that nowadays, people begin to think, wow, what an entrepreneur you really were. And I was quite the entrepreneur. But I also sold citric fruit. I was the first to bring citric fruit to York.
Wow.
So you could think, William Goodridge, Goodridge, for all that wonderful lemonade that you make today. My wife, Evalina, made the best lemonade.
Huh.
So yes, the first on a lot of things. I sold toys. I also sold hair products, toiletries. How do they say in your vernacular today? If it exists, I sold it too.
That's great.
So what made you then, because you built this empire and you essentially risked it by helping freedom seekers, because by putting fugitives in your house, even though you looked at them as fellow human beings, that's not how the law looked at them. And so your business could have been taken from you. Even your liberty, you could have been thrown in jail. What motivated you and your entire family to support the freedom seekers?
Well, that is a very dark time, and often when I'm spirited back, I try to be light. But when I speak of enslavement, it puts me in a different mood. And when you think of people being owned, it was everything. It was the smell. It was what you saw. It was what you heard, the sounds. All of those things were important to me. It made me feel that I should have and I should do more. So it was difficult during that time. There was always a bounty on my head. I did risk my life as among other abolitionists and my children. But it was something that I had to do. Because when I think of those freedom seekers who I hid in my basement or in my cellar, I think of the cruelty, being treated like an animal, not having anything that you call your own except your soul. Those are the kinds of reasons that made me do and risk so much to help those find freer spaces. It was difficult. You know, oftentimes when I'm spirited back, I like to smile and I like to give those who spirited back something to chew on, using the vernacular of the day. But I like people to also think about what enslavement was like. Being bred like an animal. Feeling as though you were worthless. I tell young people today that would make you become an abolitionist. As I hope most of your viewing audience would become abolitionists. There are all kinds of ways. There's physical freedom. Now, chattel slavery, it was horrible. So I was able to use my 13 rail cars. Did I tell you that? That I owned 13 of them. And one of them had a fake bottom where I could hide a freedom seeker. I often use my emporium as well. The story of Osborne Perry Anderson, who I had on the second floor under the stairwell. And I like to tell those that on the third floor, I was renting space to a newspaper whose headline was talking about the black man who escaped from Harper's Ferry during John Brown's raid. So there is some cheeky in just about everything, but enslavement was dreadful.
And you continued that mission with your children, with your daughter Emily moving out west and your sons then when they started their own photography business. Could you talk about what it was like seeing your mother being born into slavery and you as well, to then watching your children move across the country, do what they want, start their own businesses? What was that like?
I like to think that it was really that easy, but it really wasn't. Most people ask when I'm spirited back about the Underground Railroad, but very few want to know why it had to exist. So keeping that in mind, I felt my children were born free. They had the opportunity to move about, even though as black boys and girls, or men and women, they were still looked upon different. I was happy that they understood again, using the words today, I get confused sometimes. I am happy that they were part of the movement. Now, Emmy was quite sensitive, as well my sons. I am so proud when I'm spirited back and they talk about Glenalvin and the Goodridge brothers and how they were phenomenal photographers. I always thought so, but now the world seems to appreciate them. So I appreciate them more when people like you spirit me back, because now I see exactly the impact that my children had. So it's people like you and others who spirit me back that give me hope that things will be different as time moves forward for the black man and black woman and children.
One thing that kind of surprised me when I was doing my research was learning about how you had the tallest building, but then there was another man, John Hartman, who built it, a taller one, almost out of spite. But yet I've learned that he was also your business colleague, that you tend to do business with him. So, so could you tell us about, did you
Well,
think about
my young ladies, I would not call him colleague. And everything that he did was motivated by what you call today racism. I just called it not liking those who don't look like you. We were not colleagues, but a businessman even today, I understand. He will do things even if he doesn't like it. And I built the tallest building at the time. It was almost 5 stories, almost. He did not like the idea of a black man born enslaved coming to his town, building the tallest building. And I must say, had the best products.
Of course.
His emporium was not quite like mine. He did not like that. So was motivated. But your history today always tend to find a line where everything was agreeable. But he was motivated. He was motivated because of the color of my skin and the fact that I was probably doing better than he was. So I guess we would smile and nod, tip our hats at each other. We would trade products if there was something that one needed, and we would do that, but I hardly called us colleagues.
You must have an absorbent amount of self-control and dignity to be able to continue operating in a town that did things out of racial spite. That's quite impressive.
It was all that I knew. You know, everyone in the town was not like one individual. And the Reverend and Mrs. Dunn, I kept in contact with them all of their lives. So I like to think it was just the spirit in me. This spirit in me to want to help people but not hurt others. As I read your papers of the day, it seems that there is very little of that today. Wanting to move forward without hurting others is, I find it difficult for people of today. So it took a whole lot. I mean, being called names, tipping your hat and other people turn their head, treating my children as though they were not equal to theirs. And when I think of my dear Glenalvin, the problems that he had to go through, it did wear on me a bit.
Mm-hmm. If there is one thing you think that people should know about William Goodridge, now that we're nearing the end of our interview, that we didn't talk about, what's one thing that you want people to know?
Wow. That is quite difficult. I like to think of myself as a simple, complex person. One thing. When I'm spirited back, I am often asked why I'm spirited back. And what I would say is, I like to see where we are today versus where we were. That I always believe, deep in my heart, that we would find a way out of enslavement, that we will find a way out of racism as it's looked at today, that we would find a way to blend a little bit better. So what I would want someone to know about me is that that dream still goes on. Even when I'm spirited back and I'm confronted with the news of the day, I still believe. And those of us who were abolitionists, those like Frances Ellen Watkins Harper and Basil Biggs and, even Amanda Berry, yes. We all, I think, want others to know we believe, we have faith that things will change. So all that I experience, young ladies, made me who I am. And I want people to understand that it is not just a station master. It is not just being an entrepreneur or a good businessman. It's about being the person. And that's why when I'm spirited back to my old home that they renamed the Goodridge Freedom Center and Underground Railroad Museum, that this is a safe space. I am told that you could come here and talk about anything. Racism, sexism, any other isms that you may come up with, and know that you're in a safe space. So I want people to believe that when they walk in here, that is the spirit of William Goodridge.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank
been
you
our
for
honor.
having me.
What an honor to
Thank